We're we're doing a website for my digital narratives class along with Louise and another CIP member.
Okay.
And we just want to have like the oral interviews. Okay.
Okay.
So we start right now. How did you hear about CIP? What year did you enter the program and what was your major?
Okay. Let's see. How did I hear about CIP? I don't. It's been so long. I don't know if I remember that. Um, I think that my counselor at my high school,
Mm-hmm.
St. Mary's, was told me about it and made me aware of the program. I entered in 1985, so it's been a little while. Gosh, that's almost 30 years now, huh? Longer than that.
Yeah.
And what was my major? Well, that's a good one. I actually started off as a um, biology and pre-med major,
Mm-hmm.
and then changed over to psychology. Was psychology for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, switched over to sociology. Looked at a couple of concentrations there within sociology, and then I
Mm-hmm.
graduated organizational sociology.
Oh, okay, nice, nice.
So, which was kind of they had an organizations minor for a little while, and that's what I graduated in.
Mhm. Okay, sounds good. Do you have any anecdotes you'd like to share while you were in the CIP program?
Oh gosh, I had a lot of contacts. I actually started 1985 at
Hmm.
the on the exact same day that Allison Dumas started.
Oh,
So I
wow.
remember
Yeah.
going to her office for the first time, and she was probably a little nervous at that point because it was her first day as well as mine. So we were
Yeah.
both nervous. And I remember that, and she was very welcoming at that time.
Hmm.
And I ended up working we used to have a tutorial center. I don't know if they
Yeah.
still have that in CIP,
Hmm.
but I worked, my work study job was to work in the tutorial center at CIP. And so I got to have a lot of really great contact with her and Nita Batista, who was the director at the time. I think Tommy Ware had just left as director. So
Okay.
yeah, so all of my time there was really good. We actually at that point were located where the president's office is now.
Oh,
That's
okay,
where the
okay.
CIP office was
Hmm.
at that time. Wait, actually, no, that was a little bit later. We actually were in Bannister Hall. No, is it
Hmm.
Bannister Hall? The ones in the back.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Yeah,
CI,
the
the
buildings.
offices were towards the back of the university?
Yeah, they were. Do you know where John Ballantyne Residence Hall is?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we used to be in one of those two buildings. I think
Oh,
they had
okay.
music practice rooms there now.
Yeah.
I haven't been to campus for a little while, but well, I went back for homecoming, so it hasn't been that
Hmm.
long.
Yeah.
So, what year are you, by the
Mm.
way?
Oh, I'm cohort 2023, but I'm a transfer student. So I'm in my junior year. Yeah.
Okay. Did you transfer from Delta?
Yes.
Well, I think you have to. Actually, that's one of the requirements, right? You have to transfer
Yeah, for
from
CIP,
Delta.
yeah.
Okay, excellent.
hmm
So I'm not
Um,
supposed to be asking questions. You are, but
oh no,
I
that's
just
fine.
started
That's
asking.
fine. No, that's part of the interview. It's fine.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
so just moving on, what was your experience in the CIP program? Was it positive? Was it negative? And how so?
I would have to say it was very positive. I had probably a little bit different situation than most students.
Yeah.
I actually lived on campus all 4 years,
Hmm.
so I had a lot of other scholarships coming in from St. Mary's, and so I was lucky enough that I got to live on campus all 4 years. So I was always very close to the program. Like I said, I was working in the tutorial center, so I really got to know them pretty well.
Hmm.
And I would have to say that initially it was probably a little bit of a challenge for me because I was very, very shy.
Yes.
I kind of overcome that after all these years, but
Yeah.
so that was a little bit hard. But by the time I hit my sophomore junior year, I think I hit my stride. And like I said, everybody, as you know, is very supportive in both the supportive services program and CIP. It
Hmm.
may have changed a little bit. And actually, back then we also had an upward bound program. So I don't know if I had heard that maybe they're bringing that back, Upward Bound. Do
I
you know?
think they're bringing it back. Yeah. I haven't heard of it, but I think that they're planning on bringing it back.
Yeah, it's more of a focused on getting to the high schools and providing
Yeah.
services at the high schools.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah, so I think overall it was very, very positive. You know, the students are great. The alumni are great. So I was lucky during my interviews, I got to meet a lot of alumni and they were really
Hmm.
supportive. So I think I would have to say, yeah, it was a very positive experience. But like I said, a little different for me because I also had a very large network outside of the program because I was living
Yes.
on campus. So I
Hmm.
had roommates and those sort of things. So
Yeah. Speaking of your network outside of the program, could you say like your experience with UOP students and faculty outside of CIP was good, like positive?
yeah, I would have to say it's very positive. I also played basketball.
Hmm.
So, you know, for many, many years, I haven't been playing lately, but up until just a few months ago, I would regularly
Hmm.
play every day, but now it's, I think, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I got to know a lot of people from the gym. So I wasn't, from that standpoint, you know, anytime I came to basketball, I wasn't shy. So I really loved to play and I played on a lot of intramural teams. So I got to know both students and the faculty very well.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so you could say that you had like a really good relationship with students and faculty outside of UOP,
oh
basically.
yeah, absolutely. But you know, and as I mentioned also, you know, I was working for the tutorial center,
Hmm.
so you know, I got to meet a lot of students, obviously, who were looking for
Yeah.
services, and then we coordinated with the departments. So I'd have to work with faculty who could recommend tutors,
Hmm.
and then they would send them our way, and then we would help them with getting everything set up in terms of, you know, applying and making sure that they got paid and those sort of things.
Yeah.
So I was lucky from that standpoint. You know, I got to know a lot of people,
Hmm.
and I think that all was very, very positive. And you know, plus I knew a few people that came from my high school,
Yeah.
um, and so that helped a little bit. But only a handful. Not too many people came from St. Mary's, but you know, there was a lot of other cohorts from the other high schools, Franklin and
Hmm.
Edison and Stagg,
Hmm.
and so I kind of try to infiltrate their systems too, and meet as many people as I could.
Yeah.
And you know, living on campus helps a lot because you're in the dining halls pretty
Hmm.
regularly, and you know,
Hmm.
you get to meet a lot of people that way too.
Yeah,
So,
you get to network. Hmm.
yep.
Just moving on, were there any issues that you noticed between CIP and UOP?
At that time, you know, I think the big challenge was CIP wasn't as well known.
Hmm.
So, you know, I think a lot of students struggled with trying to fit in
Hmm.
because at that point, you know, we knew we were coming from a program that was low income, first generation, and
Hmm.
so it's hard to sometimes um, release that when you're
Yeah.
out because you know that, and
Hmm.
it's I think that the nice thing about CIP is that because you get to know the network of CIP, it's kind of empowering, so that helps a
Hmm.
lot. But a lot of times, you know, you're especially living on campus. You know, everybody has nice cars, and they
Yeah.
and um, you know they had money to do things, and
Hmm.
if I didn't work, I didn't have any money, so that was
Exactly.
hard. That was hard, but like I said, it didn't really have too much of an effect. The other thing that I had that was made a little bit easier for me is I got engaged very early. So I had a fiance throughout college. And so she would come and study on the campus. And so
Hmm.
that helped a lot too, because I had network
Yeah.
of
Your own
support,
support system.
my own
Yeah.
support system. Well,
Yeah.
besides the fact that my family was very supportive too.
Hmm.
The challenge with CIP though, as you may or may not know, is sometimes your family doesn't understand the challenges of being in college and
Yeah. Higher
how
education.
right and
Hmm.
how difficult it can be in the demands. And I know a lot of students have to keep up all of their responsibilities that they have, which could be helping to raise siblings, doing things for your parents or
Hmm.
whatever it may be. So I think that that's a challenge too. That makes it a little bit. Those are issues that I kind of noticed with not so much with me, but with my classmates, my CIP
Yeah.
cohort. So anyway,
Yeah.
those
Okay.
those
But
would be some of the issues that I
yeah.
would say.
Um,
And I don't know that that's changed much. I mean, those are probably still issues that pop up.
yeah, well, we just interviewed a class of 69, I believe,
Uh,
which was the very first cohort of CIP, and he was mentioning some of the similar issues that you mentioned, that distinction between like socioeconomic class.
yeah,
Yeah, and how like it was a little bit more difficult as the first CIP class for them to be immersed into the UOP community.
right, right.
So we just want to get like different viewpoints. So I really appreciate like your viewpoint on this. So
Yeah.
just
Well, can I
like
say one more
for
thing? Because
Mhm.
the other challenge that they had is the campus wasn't as diverse.
Yeah,
When I came, it was a little more diverse, and I
hmm,
think now it's even more diverse.
more
So
diverse. Yes.
it's from the that standpoint, it's probably a little bit easier because I think we stood out a little bit more. Although there was a lot of athletes, so we used to have football when I was here,
Hmm.
and so I think that was kind of a bonding area too. A lot of we'd get together. I think one year our CIP cohort had a float in the
Hmm.
homecoming parade, so we all got together and built a giant float for one of the big homecoming games. So anyway,
It's
that was really
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
I guess that's more of an anecdote. I'm going back to your
No,
question.
that's
So
fine. No, it's fine. Yeah.
okay.
Um, like now moving on from the challenges, do you think there were any accomplishments or highlights that you noticed between the program and UOP? Anything that you thought they did very well?
Um, at my time or now?
Just like at your time or whenever,
Okay.
whatever you want to speak on.
Okay. The reason I say that, I don't know if you know this about me, but after I graduated in '89, I actually worked for the university um, for almost 30 years.
Oh
So,
wow, okay.
yeah. So I just left about 5 years ago,
Hmm.
and since then I've been working for the state. So I still I've been following a lot of things. I think over that time, from the time I graduated till now,
Hmm.
I think that CIP is become more well known, and I
Hmm.
think it's more on the radar screen. And now that Allison's the vice president, I think that's helped a lot too. Plus,
Yeah.
Mary, Mary, I don't know how to say her last name, Giarduzzi, who's vice president for diversity, I think,
Yeah.
and inclusion. She's also a CIP alum, so that I don't know if you know that or not, but she was in my cohort, so I knew her pretty well. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's one of the big accomplishments is just staying on the radar screen, and even though we still struggle with funding
Yeah.
and keeping all of our slots in the program, I
Hmm.
think that's a big accomplishment. I think that keeping the whole community service aspect of it, I think that's grown, and I think it was a requirement when I was there. I don't know if it's a requirement now, but I think it's more ingrained in today's students. They seem to be more aware of how important it is to be involved in the community,
Hmm.
and I think that today's students are more innovative in terms of
Hmm.
how they interact with community it's also a much more challenging environment for you guys because there's so many more challenges now, I think, than when I was in
A
the program.
student? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just even just homelessness, for instance, is a huge,
Yeah.
much bigger problem than it was when I was there. So
Mhm.
anyway, I would say those are some of the big accomplishments. And I think the fact that alumni are more involved now is
Yes.
is a big accomplishment too. And I hope we can continue to do that. So
Yeah. Most definitely. And just moving on, how did CIP help your academic and personal journey during higher education?
I think that academically, it just provided another support system.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a tough major initially. I was pre-med
Yeah.
in biology
Pre-med.
for almost 3 years, and so there was a lot of ups and downs. I was a good student, but I wasn't a great student, and some sciences were much harder for me than others.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled in biology and chemistry. I think I took chemistry a couple of times um, to get a higher grade, but biology I definitely struggled with. But other areas like physics and calculus, those are I enjoyed those types, and I did much better. So I think just having CIP there helped a lot. I was kind of focused, so I feel like I would have done okay, but it definitely helped a little bit. And I think they've really encouraged me too with looking at higher education too. I mean,
Yeah.
post graduation, because I did go back and do a
Mm-hmm.
master's degree. So
Oh, wow,
actually,
that's good.
A-
Mm-hmm.
Anita helped me to apply for a scholarship. I think it was called Project 1000,
Mm-hmm.
which was a full scholarship, pretty close to a full scholarship to a listing of schools throughout the country. So I applied to like schools like Princeton and other places. Actually got into UCLA,
Mm-hmm.
but decided not to go. And I ended up working at the university and then got a good portion of my master's paid for. I did an MBA in the business school because I worked for the business school for just over 20 years. So I was the director of recruitment. So
Oh,
what
okay.
major are you?
I'm an English major with a minor
Oh,
in
in English.
sociology. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sociology. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good times. Don't you
Yeah.
love reading all the theory that you get to read in sociology?
Yeah.
Max Weber and yeah,
Yeah.
hundreds of 10 font papers explaining theory. It's good times. Good
Good times, good times.
sometimes it's good sleeping material. When you're really tired, you
Mm-hmm.
just pick that up, and
Mm-hmm.
that usually put me out in about 10 minutes. I had to
No,
really
that's
focus.
true.
New coffee whenever
Yeah.
I was reading, any of the theorists.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, so that's how it helped me. I think CIP is a very good program, and I was I I was probably I didn't have a lot of bumps in the road. I had a few bumps in the road academically, but I was lucky because I always had some support out there for
Mm-hmm.
me. So anyway,
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. Speaking of like careers, where are you now career wise? Like mentioned that you worked for the government
I work for
before
the state. Yeah,
UP. Okay.
yeah. So I worked for the university, as you know, for a number of
Mm-hmm.
years. I was the director of recruitment, so I was the one who was in charge of all the recruitment for graduate students and undergraduate students for the business school. And so I worked very closely with the admissions office because I actually started in admissions. And then after I left the university, I worked a little while as an independent consultant and then got hired by an IT consulting firm and actually went and did the process mapping and wrote processes for the county, San Joaquin County.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote like if you wanted to know how to get a marriage license, I worked with subject matter experts to basically write step by step how you do that. What
Okay.
what do you click on? What screen do you go to? So I wrote all that. I spent a year doing that. We wrote about 40 different processes for the San Joaquin County. And then after I left that, I decided to take on a bigger challenge. And now I work for the California Office of Emergency Services. So I was in hazard mitigation. And what we did is we work with grants.
Mm-hmm.
So local jurisdictions, the counties, the states will come up with what they call mitigation projects, which are basically
Mm-hmm.
projects to prevent future flooding or help reduce the amount of damage from a wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
My focus was kind of on a lot of different things, but late in the later part of my 2 years with them, I focused on earthquakes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so now I'm working for the Seismic Safety Commission, still with Cal OES. And
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing is policy. So we basically do help the state with state policy on earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of the education, put together resources and help educate people on earthquakes. There is a division for earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanoes, but we're more on the policy side.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, actually, what I'm doing is beyond doing all the other things I do, helping with contracts, we've got a small team. I'm also learning something called ArcGIS, which is
Oh, yes.
mapping. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been mapping earthquakes actually, and looking at where the next earthquakes might be and
Oh,
how
wow.
large they might be in California. But I won't tell you too much about it because I don't want to scare you.
No, it's fine. I found it interesting how you mentioned ArcGIS because we were learning about that technical tool in my
Mhm.
digital narratives class, and it's interesting because it can be used for like a wide variety of things. And do you think that your sociology degree like is helped with your career now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the research methods and a lot of the things
Yeah.
that I learned definitely. I wanted to mention to you on
Mm-hmm.
ArcGIS, right now they're doing a free massive online open course
Mm-hmm.
on climate change. So if you want to learn more about it for free, you
Yeah.
can you can do this class. It's just going to be like 2 to 3 hours a week, and really learn ArcGIS because it's definitely the future. What I'm doing with Cal OES, we're beyond my area. There's actually an ArcGIS team
Mm-hmm.
for all Cal OES, which is very large because we had a lot of hazards lately, so fires and floods and
Yeah.
you name it, earthquakes. We've had all of those, but they're working on that. And I was gonna say they they definitely it's going to be a skill that you want to know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
AI is starting to come in now. We're starting to use more
Yeah.
AI. And we're trying to get more into, like, for fires, they can do a lot of predictive modeling about how the
Mm-hmm.
fire is going to move and where the next fire may be, et cetera, where the risks are, et cetera. So I think, even with your background, um, just because you're learning research methods, you could be very helpful, particularly if you learned the technical writing side of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you knew ArcGIS or mapping software in general, and could learn the technical writing side of things, because we're writing a lot of very technical manuals and instruction and this sort of things, and we're always looking for great people. So, and that's not just true of us. I mean, every organization now is looking for those types of folks. So you have to remember, I was the director of recruitment, so I spent a lot of time. So sorry if
Yeah.
I'm not always answering your questions, but I spent a
No,
lot of
it's
time helping
fine.
students with their careers. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially those that were unsure or
Yeah. Undecided.
um,
Mm-hmm.
undecided. Yeah, we're like, well, we got to have you explore it. Make sure you take your
Yeah.
general education first and get
Mm-hmm.
exposure to a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's where I'm at career-wise right now, and I probably don't have a lot of career left. By the way, I'm probably going to retire, and then definitely within the next 5 years. And so I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Ideally, what I'm hoping to do is in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe go back to consulting and take all of the knowledge that I have and
Mm-hmm.
consult on hazards and helping folks with developing grants to
Okay, yeah,
to get
sounds
because there's
good.
a lot of money out there for
Very
jurisdictions
true.
to prevent future damage.
Mm-hmm.
And California, that's really important because we seem to have a little bit of everything here. And we even had
Mm-hmm.
heat domes and droughts
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
And
true.
now we have floods again because we had this
Yeah.
whole atmospheric river that came
Mm-hmm.
through a few months ago. So anyway, that's where I
Yeah.
am career wise. Really love my career. It's working for the state is not always the easiest thing to
Mm-hmm.
do, but it's definitely a learning experience. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Circling back to the CIP program, is there anything you change about your experience as a CIP student?
um, let's see. I think I wish I would have gotten involved a little bit earlier. I mean, I was worked for them, but I'm not sure that I volunteered as much as I could have.
Mm-hmm.
My senior year, I was president of the CIPSA,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
Student Association, and so that was a good experience. I wish I'd done more leadership roles
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the program, and so that's probably the one thing I'd change. I think the staff was great. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to be nice uh, because Allison and I were pretty close, and so I always
Yeah.
gave her a hard time. So trying not to say anything bad about Allison, but she's a good friend, and we still have a good relationship. I
Yeah.
just unfortunately I don't get back to campus as much. I'm actually with my job I have to commute um,
Mm-hmm.
several days a week to Rancho Cordova, which is
Oh,
about an
okay.
hour away.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to get back to campus.
Get back to campus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although, like I said, I did come back for homecoming, and I do definitely want to try to get back more often for CIP alumni meetings. I was doing that for a while, but I just haven't had the time lately. So,
Yeah, I understand. Just to close off this interview, while we were researching CIP, there was very little information about the program besides its beginnings. Is there any information you'd like others to know about the program or the program's relationship with UOP? Like anything you want to bring awareness to?
I'm pretty sure you guys know most of the founding history, so I
Yeah.
won't go over that. When we were back in the 80s,
Hmm.
the challenge was that the university got much more expensive between 1980 and 1990.
Hmm.
So, I don't remember the percentage increase, but it was very large, which made it harder for the CIP program because the percentage that they're providing, was it 90%, I think?
Yeah,
Um, uh,
90%.
it's, that's the more tuition goes up, the larger that percentage comes. So, but they've always been good with making sure that students are applying for other financial aid too, like Pell Grants and Cal Grants and those sort of things. So they've always tried to make sure that there was as much money available for students, so that wasn't as much the issue. Although there's always still personal expenses, right, that come up
Yeah.
that that are hard to overcome. But so that's in the 80s, I would say, just knowing the buildings that we were in, that we moved around a lot.
Hmm.
And, despite all of the challenges that the program had with having to move all the time and maybe not always been the focus of administration, I think the resiliency that faculty, staff, and students had and the
Hmm.
camaraderie that they had really helped a lot in the 80s. So I can only speak to you about my generation. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I could because I was on campus in the 90s and thousands and tens. So, but I've always seen it as a resilient. I've always been involved in interviews, and so it seems like uh, we've always had great students, and that's the focus.
Hmm.
And I think the challenge also is that balance between helping students who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds
Yeah.
and the focus on academics. I think it's become a little more academically oriented now.
Hmm.
You know, you have to have pretty good academics. Um, and it was still a focus when I was there, but maybe not as much. And so I think having that whole component has made things a little more challenging. And that's maybe some history that you may or may not be aware of, that
Hmm.
it has become much more academically competitive is
Yeah, for sure.
from what I know. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what I can share. And anything else? I'm just trying to think of anything else. Beginnings. Anything else on history that you guys saw some gaps on that you'd like to know about? Because like I said, I've been here. I was there since '85.
Yeah. I don't know if it was during your cohort or during like your time as a student in the 80s, but we did find out that there was like a little dispute between CIP and ASUOP because ASUOP was charging students, CIP students with activity fee. Um, I don't know if you
Uh,
could speak on that or if it was
I can't
before
really
your,
speak on that, but yeah, I mean that happened for a long time.
yeah.
And yeah, there was I I I don't really know the ins and outs of that.
Hmm.
That might have happened actually. We've had a lot of those types of challenges. You know, where it seems like our their fee was high, and
Hmm.
so that made it challenging for CIP students, and you know things that wouldn't be covered by financial aid. And so you know for typical student that whose mom and dad is paying for everything, it's probably not going to be a challenge. But for a CIP student, it was, you know, $100, $200 can be a big challenge
Yeah.
if you're not expecting it, right?
Hmm.
Plus now, I mean, books have gotten so much more expensive than they used to be. But I'm sure that CIP has grants and those sort of things. And if not,
Yeah, they do.
okay, I was gonna say if not, then here's you have a recording of an alumni asking that they do
Yeah.
that for you guys. So, all right. So that's all I got for you.
Yeah, all right. Just thank you for your time
Oh, no problem.
and
Well,
yeah, I hope to see you around the CIP lounge or the CIP Center, First Gen Hub. Um, and just we really appreciate on behalf of my team, really appreciate your time that you spent, doing this interview just to get the word out, shed some light on some things on CIP.
yeah, I was going to ask you, is this a CIP project or is this a class project?
This is a class project, but
Oh,
since we were all CIP students, we wanted to do something that we were all familiar with.
okay, and remind me of the class again.
Digital narratives.
Oh, digital narratives.
Yeah,
So
it's
is that
like
an English
digital
class?
history. It's like digital history.
Okay, but what department is that in?
The history department actually.
Oh, it's in the history. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow, that sounds
yeah.
like a really cool class.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah,
guys
we
probably learn a little about the digital side of things, the technologies too.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, obviously you're using Zoom, and although you
Mm-hmm.
probably use, I mean, were you a student during COVID?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, so you probably got really used to what did they use on campus? Was most classes Zoom or Teams or
It was mostly Zoom. Mostly Zoom.
mostly Zoom? So you got pretty
Mhm.
familiar with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more of a Teams guy myself. That's what we use,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I used. That's what I've been using ever since. Well, even at the university, we started using Teams. We started using Teams, and we started using Salesforce when I was there towards the latter part of my career. So anyway, good luck with your guys' project, and I hope I was helpful. If you guys have any follow up, you know where to find me.
All right. Thank
Don't
you so
hesitate to reach
much.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
day.
You too, and good luck with your education.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.